Hey everybody, thank you so much for your patience in waiting for us to return to the main feed. We are officially back. We've got tons of new episodes coming up for you in the new format. But if you've been jonesing to hear us talk about any cartoon related stuff over on our Patreon, Cartoons That Curse After Dark, we've been talking about tons of movies. We've talked about tons of franchises, popular ones people like. Tariq, which ones have we been talking about?
Shrek, Toy Story, Paddington, Ted, Kung Fu Panda. The list goes on and on.
Gumby 1 even. And
yeah.
Look, some of our best stuff is on the Patreon. It's our worst kept secret or best kept secret. It's a well kept secret. You guys should go check out our stuff over there. It's really great. Patreon.com/cartoons that curse. If you want a little bit of extra stuff, we've got like 35 episodes over there. Go check it out and cue the theme song.
Word.
I've been watching them for years, it's always been something that fit with all the animated characters that's doing their own bits. With a fry who's in the future and a family guy that sucks. With a father from a hill, a burger family runs them up. The show inspires is the same guy, except he totally says and diverse.
Let's watch Cartoons That Curse.
Yeah, that's bananas.
That's rough.
What the f*** is up, everybody? Welcome to Cartoons That Curse. My name is Johnny. I'm here with every week our co-host Tariq. Tariq, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm great. Now that our guest is here.
Hell yeah! Speaking of, what a great transition. You really set me up there, Tariq. Appreciate that.
Yeah, set him up, knock him down.
We have a great guest with us this week. We are here with Saberspark of the channel Saberspark. Saber, how you doing today?
I'm well, Johnny. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm having a solid day. I stayed up real late playing Ace Attorney. You guys ever play those games?
Whoa.
I've watched Better Call Saul.
Well, similar, really similar. It's like if Better Call Saul was anime, but it's also a video game.
Are you saying that Better Call Saul's not anime? I'm sorry.
All right. I'm not gonna say that outright because I will get angry comments. So we got to be careful here.
Comments from me, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
We're so glad to have you on today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you both.
First of all, honestly, the first question we forgot to do this for a couple weeks, but what we started by asking this for our guests is just a general statement. What are you watching right now?
Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious to see what you all think, and maybe viewers in the comments. But I have ADHD, but I'm still trying to figure it out because I was diagnosed with it back when I was a kid. But I go through I crop rotate my shows that I binge. Where I just finished South Park, and I burned
the whole thing.
Yes, I just start from start to finish. And there's moments where I tune out for some episodes, and I'm like, oh, what did I miss? But I just burned right through it. I'm like, okay, time for King of the Hill. And so I'm watching King of the Hill right now again. Better Call Saul. I just finished Samurai Champloo for the first time. Never saw that one before. That was good.
Yeah, I've heard that's great. I've never seen it.
I've seen a little. Yeah, it's good.
Well, it's awesome because I didn't realize how much of it inspired other shows. I just finished rewatching Boondocks.
Yeah, it's all over.
Right,
it's all over.
No, I actually have a question for both y'all in a second. It's related to season 4 of Boondocks, which I come back to in a second.
Okay.
But while watching Boondocks, because I watched Boondocks first, then I watched Champloo, and I'm like, oh my god! There's even an episode that feels directly inspired to a Champloo epised where there's a baseball game between the Americans and the Japanese, which is, they take a lot of creative liberties in Champloo because it takes place during the 1800s or the late 1800s or something like that.
Nice.
But there's an episode of Boondocks, it's a dodgeball contest.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit! Even just the vibe of the entire episode, the energy and the goofiness. I'm like, that is way too likely or way too unlikely to be just a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Gosh, what else? Does MasterChef with Gordon Ramsay?
Yeah, it does count.
Yeah, if that's what you're watching, it counts.
It's kind of weird. I'm in my mid-30s, And I'm finding myself now looking for comfort shows, being a living like cliche, where I'm like, oh boy, a new Gordon episode. Let's sit down. Me and my girlfriend will sit down. We're like, okay, let's watch it. And yeah, it just kind of, I sit there and I'm like, yeah, we're watching Hulu. It's 8 p.m. on a Tuesday, and we're gonna go to bed at 9. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm getting to that stage in life, but I like it. I like
Word.
waking up in the morning. It's like, 7 a.m. Oh, I feel rested.
Yeah, I think like the more I do these videos and like gotta sit there and like analyze and think heavily about what you're watching, the more I am so welcome to like that mindless reality.
Yes.
I don't have to think at all. This stuff is just happening. Like, you know what I mean?
It's freeing in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
definitely.
I found myself. I've been watching this Apple TV Plus show. I think I mentioned it last week, called Servant. It's the M. Night Shyamalan show, and I've found that that's just so far outside of what I typically talk about and analyze that I'm able to watch it and absorb the mystery and bizarre aspects of it without overtly thinking about how to analyze it, which is so helpful.
That's good.
Yeah,
right?
because most things I watch, even if they're outside of what I normally talk about, my brain starts turning, being like, "Oh, I could make a video about this."
So that's okay. So you all know that vibe, that feeling. I imagine. Do you all also struggle where it's like there's one of those things where it's like I'm not complaining. It's an observation because with what we do professionally, we can't really complain because it's like I imagine we all also come from the world of like. I mean, I was a copier salesman. I was fired twice from this job. I was a Starbucks barista. It's like, I know that those are tougher jobs. So I'm not going to be like, come here, barista. Let me tell you how hard it is to make a video about cartoons. However, there are challenges that come with that territory. And one of them is that it's hard to turn your brain off from work. It's always like, you're always, what's work? What's the next project? Oh, this could be a good project. And even things that you want to just relax and have fun with start to kind of creep in. You're like, oh, this can be a good 2-parter or something. And it's
you have to be so self-starting that you're always in like self-start mode. I can't stop self-starting, right? And so yeah, it's amazing to have turned something I love and am passionate about into a career, but it also now makes the things that I love and am passionate about feel like work sometimes, even when they're not supposed to be. It can be tough. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, like, cause this happened to me one time and I've been chasing this ever since. It's been like 3 years, but have you ever just kind of at your own like free will started watching a show and then organically fell into the video? Not like just like watching it and going like, oh, I got to do a video, or like thinking like, oh, this could turn into a video. Just like out of nowhere, you like write a note down like, oh, this is funny. And then like, oh, wait. And then you just keep going. That happened to me one time and it was The Weekenders. And I've been chasing that ever since. And yeah, I've always been curious if that's happened to other people.
Kind of. I mean, the best projects are the ones that you feel that passion for. But as we all know, sometimes like you put yourself in the corner where it's like, the audience would love this and YouTube algorithm will love this, but I'm feeling kind of, on it. But that comes with the territory, which is why that entire, mode of thinking of like project, it's like the producer side of us. But to answer your question, Tariq, I guess for like VeggieTales, I did a video about that a few years back. That one came from a place where I was like, yeah, I love VeggieTales as a kid. And I see the state of Christian animation, how like just terrible it is. And then I looked more into it. I'm like, it was Netflix that ruined it, right? And then I got this book that was like an autobiography from the creator, Phil Vischer. And it just opened my mind to how terrible of a downfall it was when this guy had his creation ripped from his hands. And like to find that being like, whoa, this is such an amazing, interesting story. Right, and the thing is, I still have to admit, I did go into that VeggieTales thing being like, could be a project. But as far as something where I was completely caught off guard, and I'm like, oh, that could become a video, or I want to do a video about that. I don't think so. I think I'm a little bit too, not paranoid in a bad way or anxious in a bad way, but I'm always in that, thinking mode of project. Like
Yeah.
to a fault, to where there's so many projects that I have ideas for, and I just throw them in the pile. I'm like, yeah, we'll get around to it, and I'm dead. You know?
Yeah, that happens. I think it's that way for me as well, where I go into almost everything with in the back of my mind being like, you know, it could be a video. And so I, even if I tried, am just trying to watch something for leisure. I feel like there's always part of my brain that's like, what about, what if it was a video? Yeah.
I have an answer for this, actually. I'm sorry.
Okay,
this is how dumb I am. Helldivers. Okay, so it was for the gaming channel that I have that's still trying to figure out its rhyme and reason, but I got really into Helldivers, and when I first started playing it back in February, I'm like, this is fun. And then I'm like, wow, this is really, really fucking fun. And I'm like, oh, I'm having a great time. I wish I could turn this into work. Oh, I have a video game channel. That actually was the thought. I was like, if only I had a gaming channel.
Oh, yeah.
I do. So that was fun. And you can, it's so, you can feel it in your essence when something is exciting and you're like, I'm having fun working on this.
Absolutely.
Which, like, I don't want to do a rabbit hole, you know, like go off the beaten path here, but like that's something where I've kind of finally arrived where I'm like, passion can be detected in videos, especially in this current algorithm where there's more emphasis on long form content that has, you know, it's like there's a story you're telling, you know, what's the beginning? What are the stakes? What are the struggles? What are the goals? And I think people are starting to become a bit more appreciative of passion in people's videos, which is still hard to do because the stakes are now a lot higher to make, you know, to deliver. And that being said, though, I mean, I prefer that. I mean, there'll always be all kinds of types of content on YouTube, like people who are just like, yeah, I'll just, you know, here's my initial thoughts on a very trendy, flash in the pan current event. But also seeing the rise of people who are like, here's my micro, you know, fandom niche passion project iceberg. Folks are like, I don't know what the hell this is. However, I love passion and I want to get lost for the next 5 hours while I work. Go off, King.
It is funny how it does feel like things have shifted where it felt like previously people were trying to do the bigger, more broader topics that more and more people would be generally interested in, like whatever is hot, whatever you're talking about. But like, it is funny how now the more specific you get, like the more niche you get, the more people are like, that is interesting. I want to learn about that. And I like that. It feels like it feels more like almost like a not only just a knowledge seeking trend, but like, oh, I want to know why you love this. Like, I want to see this through your eyes. Yeah.
Which, like, I've noticed, like, YouTube isn't perfect, but something I have noticed is it will start recommending to me channels that I've never heard of that are small channels.
Yeah, me too.
And there was some channel I saw that had like less than 1,000 subs and had an hour-long video essay. I forget what the topic was, but gosh, what was it? It was some video game. And I'm like, wow, like, this is a very well-made video. And I'm like, it's kind of impressive that, like, things have matured so much that you even have small channels who can put out an hour-long video that's well presented and edited. And I'm like, that's not easy. That's not easy.
Right. Yeah.
Which means we gotta get better, boys. We've got to get better. They're catching up with us.
I was thinking about that. Well, I was thinking about that just this week about how I like making bigger, longer videos, but they do take more time. They're more of an investment, and it's making a bigger, and also it's a gamble. It's like making that big of a video, and it doesn't hit. It's a bigger hit to your bottom line than if I do a bunch of small videos that I know will do solid. So I have to find a mix. I have to find a mix where I'm like, all right, I'm working on the big one off to the side, but I need to be able to do my South Park breakdowns and my BoJack breakdowns that I know people want to watch. And just so I can, make sure my channel isn't sinking while I'm working on this.
Yeah.
You have to have that net gain. And still, for those long videos, those massive ones, like you all are familiar with Quentin reviews, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had that video for April Fool's his dad made that was like 40 hours long.
Insane.
Dude. Yeah.
Right. But like for YouTube to take it down because of the copyright strike, I'm like, that's the problem with big videos like that. Is you need a backup plan.
Yeah.
Because if it gets torpedoed, you're dead. You know,
it's over. Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm dealing with like I started that compilation channel recently, which is
Smart.
funny. I started doing that. The compilations are big right now. I did the sleeping trend before everyone else jumped on the sleeping trend.
Who started that?
Well, the first one I saw was Do You Know Gaming has a clips channel, and they were framing a lot of theirs as that. And when I planned mine, that was the only one I saw. I was like, that's in the gaming space. It's kind of a big, like, more corporate channel. Did You Know Gaming? So I was like, oh, I can do this for my niche, and that'll be great.
Yeah, I knew gaming ones, but but for us, I didn't see it.
Yeah, and then I also realized that once I started it, someone pointed out that Kid Icarus has one, Caddy
That's
Suits.
what I
So I think
that's the one I saw. That's the one I saw.
So I think that's like the one. That's the solo creator who I think kind of started the trend, even though when I decided to do it, I hadn't seen his yet. But then, like, truly within a couple weeks of me posting it, like, Mark reached out to me and was like, hey, I'm gonna do this, do you have any tips? And I'm like, okay, cool. And since I've had like 5 more people reach out and be like, hey, how's it going, do you got any ideas? And I'm like, all right, I need to change the theme now because everyone's sleeping.
Everybody's going to sleep.
No, I shit you not, when I saw your channel, I'm like, and then I saw Ellis Mark announce his, and when I saw Mark announce his, I'm like, nah, I'm too late. I'm too late. And I'm like,
Jordan Fringe just did one. Like, it's just everyone.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing, just for the viewers who are like, might try to read between the lines or whatever. This is a big industry, lots of room. It's
money for everybody,
right?
Yeah,
it's a hustle. We all, if you take it personally, if someone point blank plagiarizes you, that's a problem.
Sure.
But if they're doing like, I remember someone got angry at me once for reviewing VeggieTales, and I'm like, dude, you don't own it. Like who what? Who cares? So that being said, the sleepy trends, I still feel like you can probably still cultivating. That's how I really got into your videos, actually, Johnny. I was late to the game. I also been watching your videos a lot recently because I'm slowing down on making videos. That. I'm starting to watch more other mutuals and content creators and colleagues, and you two are at the top of that list. And I'm like, being inspired by it, and because I'm always trying to take in the YouTube landscape because it's fascinating to me. I've been doing this for a while, right. And it's cool to see it ever changing because humans are ever changing. We're always evolving our culture, our thoughts, our values, and I mean, it's wild because I'm working on this video right now about like the downfall of Nickelodeon. As far as like, wow, what a king of a network it once was, and it is just dead.
It's just a show, yeah.
Yep. Really, it is. And I'm thinking like, wow, a big part of it is that people like, I have 3 nieces and a nephew, and they don't watch cartoons really. They don't watch TV. There's a victory. A few months ago, 2 of my nieces came over, and one of them is 9, and we were watching Spirited Away for the first time. And she got sleepy, and she's like, I'm gonna go to bed. And I'm like, okay, go to bed. Next morning, I walk downstairs to my coffee, and she's like, Uncle Steven, can we finish the movie? I'm like,
that's good vibes.
There's hope. There's hope.
Yeah.
Thank God, because the time before we were having a summer vacation with, I was hanging out with my sisters, and my nieces were obsessed over Sniper Wolf. And I'm like, no, please, no. And we had a little bit of a victory during that trip, too, because the girls all watched the movie Babe, which I think is a very good movie. And they loved
it's a great film.
So yeah. I think just, I guess, to bring it all in summary is that it's an ever-changing landscape that Nickelodeon could not adapt to. They died. They're dead. They have SpongeBob and Loud House. But, like, the more I look at their network, like some Autopsy, it's like from the Dan Schneider stuff to the recent discoveries on Quiet on Set. I've been listening to this audiobook with my girlfriend about Jeanette McCurdy and her upbringing. Yeah. That thing blows my mind.
It is. I've read like half of it. Yeah.
Oh, it's rough. I'm like, oh my God.
It is.
But ultimately, I'm just thinking like, man, it's what does it take to be a good creator? What does it take to be a successful creator? Can you even have your cake and eat it? Because you got people who are great artists who still don't get there. To think there will always be justice is kind of like, as much as I would love that, it is kind of a fleeting dream. Because like Lauren Faust, she worked on Powerpuff Girls. She worked on G4 My Little Pony. When she pitched G4, I'm sorry, when she, before she worked on G4 My Little Pony. She went to Hasbro and she was pitching her own original ideas, which are great.
Right. The
They're like,
Milky Way. Yeah. Yep.
Yes. They're like, what about My Little Pony? And she's like, okay, sure. And ultimately made a great, revitalized the franchise in a big way. But then like Sony shot down her Medusa, movie.
Right,
James Baxter was working on that shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, there are good artists out there who still can't get their shot. So, sorry, I'm going all over the place.
No, this is good. You're good.
But in summary, whether it's the Sleepy Time channels, which is us, one half artist, one half producer, trying to roll with the punches and try to find that sweet spot. Because I like to think that none of us are stripped of, the beating heart of wanting to make sincere, good stuff.
Right.
We also have to be mindful of the system we exist in, which is YouTube, a business, competition, algorithms, an ever-changing, platform with its trends and how the ebb and flow of it. But like, it's kind of neat, I guess, to tie a little bow on this conversation, that there seems to be a demand for sincerity and passion as of late. I'm like, whew, that's good. That's a relief.
Yeah.
And that's it gives me hope for the future. It does. That maybe while Nickelodeon had passion, now it's gone. But it does exist on YouTube. And in different forms, not everywhere, not all videos, but it's there. I'm talking to two gentlemen right now who obviously have passion and creativity, but who also understand the business side of it too.
Yeah, because like for years, to your point, for years, I tried to operate as if I was like the Lindsay Ellis or FD signifier of like these videos. And what I mean by that is like FD, good friend of mine, you watch him put out one long ass video that he took the whole month to make, and then he just sits back and like does whatever. And that's kind of what I was doing for a while. I would spend a whole month watching a cartoon, put together a retrospective, put it out, and then like it would do well, people would like it. But somewhere along the way, because that was my thing too, is I never wanted to talk about stuff that like I felt like everybody talked about, like stuff that was like super popular. So I was like, okay, I'm picking these like Brandy and Mr. Whiskers, like I'm picking As Told by Ginger, like I'm doing stuff like that. When I ran out of like those like kind of like mid-tier, well-known cartoons, and I had to go like underneath, that's when like I was like, oh, okay, these aren't doing well. Then I got to do like Slacker Cats, and that doesn't really do as well. And then like, what I mean? Like stuff like that happened. So like, that's when I had to step back and go like, okay, well, what could I put? Now I tried to talk to Johnny about that. And Johnny was like saying like, like, it's like, yo, man, if you still do what you want to do, but like you do shorter things, you couldn't get me to shut the fuck up. They were like 30, 40, like, what I mean? Like that's how long everything had to be that long to me. But it was Johnny that was like, yo, man, I think if you do shorter ones, maybe like about a scene or an episode, and like you could still care about it. They could still have like passion in it, but everything doesn't have to be like big and elaborate, because I'm a damn yapper, bro. Like I will talk your ear off if I could.
Well, that's I mean, and that's why like having a podcast like this is a good outlet for that. But at the same time, like I was told once by this person who worked at Federator back in the day that there is like a potential, and the kind of content that we all do, which the word content's a dirty word.
Dude, content creation, I can't stand it.
It's like someone's like, yes, I work at the sludge factory, I make sludge. And like, but no, I mean, like, but for making videos, there's a tier, or there's a 3-tier system where like you got your tip of the spear, tier 1, tentpole videos, the things that are higher quality, require a bit more substance, but they they keep the lights on mainly. It's what brings back viewers. Then they get the tier 2 stuff, which is like kind of in between, where it's like not quite the stakes of a tier 1 video, but kind of has the same vibe and maybe about half the running time. Then tier 3 stuff is like trendy things that has a shelf life, a movie review or whatever. And then you hit that, doesn't require as much cost, but it has the potential of, if you do, if the cost is lost, who cares? I'll make it up in the net gain. However, there's a chance that due to the trendiness, it'll blow up and it makes back, quite the return. That sounds also heartless to present, where like, yes, business for YouTube videos. But
it's strategy though. You need to have that stuff in mind when you're working on this stuff. Because if you can't make it all work, as a whole, then you can't do the things you're passionate about.
Right.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, I'm starting to approach this mindset of do one for you, do one for them.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like there's a compromise there, because ultimately, like, I was getting a lot more hate on Twitter where folks are calling me like a furry gooner or whatever. And I'm like, well, first off,
Twitter's a very nice place.
oh no, I was like Encyclopedia Dramatica. I'm like, what does that word mean? Okay, I'm old. But there was a little bit of like the key turning over. I'm like, you know, I know there's a lot of it's kind of hyperbolic in a lot of ways, but I tried to, you know, at least be mindful. And I'm like, well, you know, I guess this isn't me like buckling under any kind of Twitter pressure, but more of me being like, yeah, I don't want to be known as like the furry lewd guy. Even though I know that that's more of an echo chamber of my top performer is giving me that kind of, you know, because I had somebody in the tweet, a lot of tweets being like, that's all he does. And I'm like, motherfucker, I have 6 months worth of videos.
How many videos do you make?
Right. And I'm like, none of you watch it, so that says more about you than me. But but I kind of realized where I'm like, you know, I could, you know, I never want to gravitate towards like a corner where that's all I make. And all the other kind of stuff I could do dies out. So it's like, I guess here's the ultimate takeaway I've realized is like, we all don't need to have like pie in the sky, you know, this didn't hit 1 million views. Oh, I'm a failure.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it's cracked 100,000. That keeps the lights on. You can still live a good life as long as you're smart with your spending and your investments, and you're still cultivating, you know, a good business, good art, good videos, a good relationship with your channel. Like that's like, I go to these like how to YouTube panels at conventions and folks are like, how do I make it big? And I'm like, you don't. Like, you know, it's relatively, you're still making it big. Folks are like, I only have 100,000 subs. I'm like, that's awesome. That's great.
You can do a lot with that. Yeah.
Right. But I think the main thing I realized is finding your tribe, you know, finding your community. And as long as you have a nice rock solid foundation there and they appreciate you, and they, you know, watch your videos and support you, that's awesome. That's excellent. That's to me, I'm like, that is more than enough.
Even to that point, like anytime I post something and it doesn't perform as well, I kind of like, I always like crawl into my server like with my tail between my legs, and like everybody in the Patreon is just kind of like, yo, man, like this joke was so funny, all of this, and then it just makes you happy at that point, because it's like it always reminds you like why you do it and like what this is really for. It's to pay the bills and everything like that, but you know, like it makes people happy, like people that get up and go to work. Like it's the same thing like where like when we came home from school, like we just wanted to watch the cartoon that was on. Yeah, you come home from work, you just want to watch the 30-year-old talking about the cartoon that was on.
Make me forget. No, I mean, there's something beautiful in the videos that don't perform so well, where you find some of the most genuine feedback and the most the viewers who are like, they're like invested in you, and they're like, hey, I noticed this nuanced joke, or this, you know, or you went the extra mile with your research. Hey, well done. You're like, thank you.
I just did recently the biggest thing I've ever made for YouTube. And I'm questioning whether or not this was the way I did it was smart, because I did a video. I don't know if you saw this, Saber, but I did a video where I talked about every film ever nominated for best animated feature. And so but the thing is, I put it on a new channel. I did a second channel where I was trying to kind of change up. I'm still planning it. I'm still planning to use this channel in different ways, but it's one that features my face a little bit more. It's one where I do more ambitious ideas and projects like that. The other video I did is where I documented myself going to Casa Bonita and explaining my whole experience at Casa Bonita. It was great. It was so
it's a good video.
I went there before it went through its renovation, by the way. Back in 2007. I have a story for that. I'll write that down.
Okay, great.
I have a story for you.
Continue. And you know, like that video did pretty good. It's got a few 100,000 views. The Casa Bonita one has like 500,000 somehow, which is crazy. But you know, I threw it on this other channel that I want to build up as doing these bigger, more ambitious projects that I'm passionate about. But you know, there is definitely a degree of me questioning whether or not that was smart, where I'm like, okay, I made this giant video. Should I have just put it on my main channel and like and been like and like reap the rewards of it, or was using it to try and start building this additional platform where I maybe venture outside of the niche that I've set myself in to do things that I really am a little bit more passionate about outside of animation? Is that going to be worth it in the long run? And it is like, you know, it's an expensive video, 6-hour video. It took a lot, you know, it took a lot of people to work on it, and so a lot of my time. And so now I'm just like, all right, is this going to be worth it? and I'm trying to just appreciate that I made something really cool and giant without stressing about, did I deliver this wrong?
That's the system, though. That's the nature of our work, is that the algorithm deliberately wants you to have that, you know, that fear, uncertainty down, because that anxiety spurs us on to keep making, which, you know, is them reaping the rewards no matter what. They get their, you know, percent. But you know, I was kind of in that situation where a few months ago, I was like, I should do reactions from my Twitch of me watching bad movies and put on my YouTube. And my girlfriend's like, well, we kind of do that on our highlights channel. And I'm like, oh, I guess I was kind of, my brain was like shooting out sparks. But I'm like, but I want to do all of it. But also I want to do high quality videos. But I also want to do, you know, easy videos. I want to do it all. You know, and it's like, well, no, I think my big takeaway from that is like that you always will find a source of stress if you go searching for it.
Sure. Yeah.
And there will always be room for improvement, and there will always be, you know, like, could we succeed more? Can we go that extra distance to get that, you know, more subscribers, views, money? Sure. But ultimately you have to find where you're content. And I think I've finally arrived at a point where I'm like, if I never gain another subscriber again, I'm more than blessed and lucky and happy. But as far as diversification goes, I'm like, I don't want my content to lock horns where folks are like, we're kind of confused over the amount of uploads, the tone of it, the direction. So Johnny, for what you've done, if it's more niche and you're more presented on camera, I don't see that as a bad path that you went. And you never know, because there was that Lydia from Simpsons Theory where she launched a second channel that overtook her main channel, I believe.
Yeah, or it's close. It's close if it hasn't overtaken it. It's like they're about on equal levels. Yeah, it's wild.
Right. And that happened because it took a risk with a different direction and a different tone, and now it's paying dividends like crazy.
Yeah.
And they're killing it. So you just don't know. It's like you're asking the magic 8-ball. You're like, will I make it? I don't know. You know.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And I do think this is real I don't really know the word to describe it, but I've said this to you like in private, but I do want to emphasize on the podcast so it's on record for the people. That long 6-hour video that you did is one of, in my entire career in doing this YouTube shit, is one of the things I'm the proudest to be a part of. To be able to do the thumbnail and to like edit that Ratatouille section blew my mind when I was editing it. I like when I finished and I like played it back, I was like, shit, I need to do better at this because this is good.
Dude, thank you. I really appreciate it.
So that. I think I think too is like, you know, you look at like the return and it's like, fuck, was this a mistake? But at the same time, it's like the last like scripted video I guess that I did was the TV movies one, and there's that long section when I talk about the Jungle movie. And the whole inspiration for how smart I tried to sound during that was because of that video that you did.
Oh, that's awesome.
We always kind of like inadvertently inspire people. Like I take so much stuff from Nintendo. I take so much stuff from him, like Veritas Joe, like everybody. And like people come to me, say like they take stuff from me for whatever reason. I don't know. But I think it's cool that we inspire each other that way. Even if like we don't always see the monetary return that we feel like we should.
I feel
that's a big part of it. Is you feel like, you know, it's the financial amount that is the highest, you know, most important aspect of a video, which, you know, living in this, you know, capitalistic hellscape, you know, we can't be ignorant of. But at the same time, like, it's like, no, I'm proud of this. We made a good video, and we can hold our head up high. And like it's usually those are the videos that speak the loudest to, you know, it's a smaller group of people, you know, admittedly, but they can see the passion. They can go, hey, that was really good. You know, that was, I see your effort, you know, I can see you shining. And it's like, thank you. I needed to hear that.
Totally.
Look at this YouTuber event session.
I know. We had all these other questions, but I'm like, well, that was like cathartic. A good 30-minute conversation about what we do. I guess before we get into the episodes, though, you know, you just put out a video about like kind of the new direction of your channel, and it's kind of, and it does feel like that is kind of related to what we're talking about here, you know, with staying passionate about what we're doing, but also, you know, making sure things stay afloat. And I know I watched your video kind of laying out your plan, and I had a lot of respect for you just being like, hey, this is what I want to do. It's what I need to do to like stay passionate about this. And if, you know, and I know there's risks, but I don't care. I'm going to do it. You know, like this is what I want to do, and it's going to make me happy. And I do think that's a hard thing to do these days, is just be like, I'm going to make this decision for me at the core, you know? Right, yeah. Are you excited about what your plans are though?
I am. And I do need to throw out a disclaimer that, like, this is such a place of privilege for me to even have this opinion.
Sure.
I feel like I need to say that because I feel like I would be kicking the ladder out beneath me if I did not. There's a lot of creators who don't have that luxury to go, I will make what I want. And it's like, no, sometimes you have to make what they want.
Yeah.
In order to get the best return on your investment. And it sucks because you feel this, you know, this tug of war between art and business. And you're like, I want to make something that's more artistically fulfilling for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's fine, but they want this. And the thing is, again, I have to also acknowledge that making videos for a living is also a privilege, just in general. But at the same time, we can kind of like, you know, at least, what's the word? How do I put this? You can still have your grievances with what you do, you know? It's like, what's worse, you know? Like, you know, I was a barista, and that had some hardships, but being a barista is better than a lot of the rest of the world and how they have their own set of struggles. Where it's like, I saw a picture a few days ago of some kid who was thankful to have clean water, and I'm like, Steven, never forget this. Never forget this. Yeah. I'm like, never forget this. And I know it's not to rob people who are privileged to have their own set of grievances, but it does provide perspective, which can be a hell of a motivator. It makes you feel more like capable, being like, it's okay. I have clean water downstairs, and I can go to the gym. I can come back home, have a nice bed to sleep in, and I will be safe. And I can wake up next morning, get to work, and it can be done. That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
So, but with what I do, I've been doing it for a long time. And I finally got to a point where I broke through 2 million subscribers. And I've reached a point where I'm like, I think we can pivot to know that we've done a few experiments with videos that are a bit more in the vein of what I want to do that have succeeded. Let's do it. Because even if the algorithm, which already on my studio tab, it's like, what are you doing? Where are the furry girls? Where's the money? And I'm like, shut up, YouTube. So like, I'm more, because the thing is, like, you know, life's a stage, and we get our spotlight for a bit, and you will eventually have to take your bow, and that's fine. It's inevitable. We all take our bow. And for me, I'm like, if I can take, you know, at least kind of in a direction where it feels more artistically fulfilling, but still can pay my team, I can still, you know, help me afford rent, help me to, you know, have a good life, and you know, keep just moving in this direction of economic growth, creative growth, physical growth, you know, all those things, which are, again, I can't, especially in this current climate, those are massive blessings in any climate, period. But I'm excited. I'm excited to put more of my passion into videos so folks can detect it. This video about Nickelodeon falling apart, I'm like, I grew up with Nick. I loved Nickelodeon. I remember, here you guys ready for this? I remember watching a Kids' Choice Awards, and I was like 8 or 9 years old because the category was like, best animal in a movie or show or whatever, or something like that. And at the time, I was like really all about Free Willy. And I was on my parents' phone, obviously, I'm not sure how often they were being charged, but I'm like, I can vote multiple times. Free Willy, Free Willy. And
voting by phone. God,
you ready for this? So it gets even worse. This was a shattering moment of me realizing the cruelty of the world. So it was the night of the awards, and they're still advertising saying you can still vote, and up to like the moment of it being revealed, I'm like, Free Willy, and then on stage they're like, and the winner is, and this trash can lid blew off the top in the background, and it was motherfucking Salem from Teenage Witch.
Whoa.
And he's like, I won, and I'm like, Wait, hold on. He's been on that stage in that trash can the entire time. It's all a lie. It's a lie.
Oh, man.
I'm like, nothing matters. And I remember being just destroyed.
They robbed that childhood wonder from you.
No, I was like, nothing's real. It's all facade. And but that should give you an idea of how I was utterly obsessed with Nickelodeon. And of course, Cartoon Network start stealing me away towards them, because I was more of a Cartoon Network kid than Nickelodeon, but I watched them both equally, more or less. But because at least Cartoon Network didn't have the live action stuff, where I'm like, ew, live action, ew, But I guess working on the Nickelodeon stuff, I can feel that passion, with my stories, with my experience, seeing the evolution of a network that really defined children's entertainment in a big way. And then seeing the sad downfall. Then, that's something also, let me add this in here. I think it's a bummer that I'm not sure if it's something just programmed in the human condition, in our DNA or whatever, but it's kind of a sad thing that it's those videos about the downfall of something that always perform more.
I know.
Than building something up. I wish that wasn't always, because I did a video about the rise of the TMNT. And we worked hard on that one, and it got like 150,000 views, which is, again, those are good views relative to the channel's overall performance. YouTube's like,
right.
Let's not do that again. And I'm like, well, I like talking about like rallying around something that's a righteous cause. So I don't know. It's hard because like I want to talk more about things to build it up, and I still plan on doing that. You have to be kind of like clever in order to sneak it in. Like you have to present it as okay, for example, here we go. We're doing a video right now. Actually, Johnny, thank you again for recommending Tracy as a writer. She is outstanding.
Yeah, shout out to Tracy. Great writer.
And she's top tier. I got to meet her at a few cons. She's amazing. We're working on a video about what ruined Steven Universe. And you would think like, what ruined it? Obviously, that's implying that you hate the show.
Sure.
No, I love the show. Cartoon Network hated the show. So that's how I'm going to sneak that in, is to build up the show. Right? Okay, that you have the Trojan horse it.
That's what you have to do that. But here's what happens too, because this is I was thinking about this morning. I'm glad you brought this up, but I was thinking about this. When you do that, sometimes what happens is some people will screenshot the video in the title and then put it on Twitter and like, ain't nothing wrong with Steven, you fuck out of here. And it's like, fam, if you watch it, you would see that that's exactly what I'm saying. But there's always this, but that emotional reaction is what drives people to click. Because they're like, what does he think ruined this thing that nothing happens to you? Like, you know what I mean? And then you watch it and you're like, oh, that's exactly what he was saying. Okay.
Right. No, so much of Twitter too is like the current landscape of Twitter is like, punching down somebody, or I'm sorry, punching up on somebody. Look how stupid this creator is. It's like, because we wanted to say, did you watch the video? Of course you did not. Because these folks are out to get their dopamine, get pat on the back, and be like, yeah, I did awesome. And then once you call them out, they're like, I'm blocking this thread. Leave me alone.
Yeah,
it's like, right. But here's John, remember in King of the Hill when there was I think it was a wrestling episode. No, it wasn't wrestling. It was that one serve. No, it was the Pygmalion. You know what I'm talking about, the episode?
The Michael Keaton one?
I think that's it, with the guy who was dressed in the pig outfit.
Yes.
And
Wait,
there's a
the with the Luann one, right? The one where with the where Luann dates the guy played by Michael Keaton who runs the like factory, the like
so
pork
both
factory,
know
whatever.
one.
Yeah, Tariq is as big a King of the Hill fan as I am.
Hell yeah,
so, yeah,
good. Yeah. Do you all remember the moment where the server walks up and he's like wearing like an outfit and he goes, "Life's a series of compromises."
I don't remember that, but great line.
He's like a defeated butler wearing the outfit of some character, and you see how he's like, "Life is a series of compromises." And I kind of feel that with videos where it's like, yeah, Twitter's gonna make fun of you. However, this is how you cast your widest net. This is how you can pull back the most fish.
For sure.
Is kind of, presenting in a way, not misleading, because ultimately it's like there's just something in the human condition where it's like those, those entertainment magazines. Oh, she put on weight. Her relationship's falling apart. And it's like, ooh,
Mm-hmm.
So if we can Trojan horse at least something good in there of substance, I think the ends justify the means, as long as maybe it's more telling of the current landscape itself. If we're all just so I want to tear them apart, it's like, well, look in the mirror, maybe that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, YouTube is the villain.
I mean, that's one of the reasons, like,
villain.
I truly feel like I've had tremendous success and I'm really happy with my channel, but I do feel like I could be skyrocketing more if I were more negative in how I framed things. Like I kind of pointedly have made an effort to not do that. And I know that's maybe not great for the algorithm, but it is like, I don't know, it feels like something that's for me important, where I'm just like, there is so much negativity on here. Like I would like to be known for not being as negative off the bat. Not that I'm not critical. I have plenty of criticism towards things, but I try to frame things constructively and less like, wow, this was terrible. Except for the Netflix Last Airbender, I did tear that down pretty thoroughly.
Good. Well, for both y'all's channels, like my girlfriend and I were looking at them and we're like, they should have more subs than what they do. Because I see some channels where I'm like, these folks have too many subs for what they do.
yeah.
And I'm not going to drop names, but like, I guess ultimately, I just feel that that's more of a testament to the character and the artistic pursuit of both of you, and that you all are building things of substance. And that I'm glad YouTube's going in the direction where it's like, this idea of like, I gotta break 1 million subs. I gotta break 10 million subs. I gotta break 25. It's like, you will always be hungry. Right. You'll always, because that's greed at that stage. So I've seen YouTube channels just utterly collapse under their own greed, where it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Is this all for money? Okay, there's that scene from the Boondocks where that Jack Bauer character is talking to Mr. Onslayer, and he's like, "Why do this? Don't you have enough money as it is?" And he goes, "No." It's like, yeah, I never want to be that. I feel like
you also see that in particular. Like, obviously our space is filled with people like us where we're like, yeah, we will maybe bring on a team to help with us, but it's creator driven. Then there's also stuff like, I used to work for Nerdist. Nerdist is a bigger company. They had, they were purchased, and at a certain point they were purchased by Legendary Digital. And when I was working there, they were owned by a movie studio who was like, well, we have invested in this channel. We're going to put a bunch of money in it. And we want to build it up to be something bigger. And it was we did really great stuff there, but they oversaturate their own output. And so like, and I've seen this on tons of other channels of similar style, where it's like, oh, this is a specific niche. We're going to bring in a bunch of people. We're going to make a bunch of videos. We're going to put out 2 videos a day
that's too much.
It's just way too much. And then they don't get the returns. And all of a sudden, all of these people who have put a bunch of time and effort into these things all get fired at once, because they're just like, we can't sustain this. And that just happened.
Frederator did the same thing.
It just happened at New Rockstars. It happens all over the place. And it's and it is that corporate driven aspect of this world that tends to screw over the people who are making things. Yeah.
Because to them, it's like, what about the shareholders? Shareholders need to see good guidance. They need to see good return. They need to see the arrow go up and up and up, and as soon as it goes, down a little bit, they're like, oh, sell it all off. And it's like there's something inherently sick in the human condition about that, where it's like, can't we just be content? Getting hundreds of thousands of views or even tens of thousands of views, that's good.
Yeah, that's real.
As long as you can make enough to cover your cost and put money away to invest and take care of yourself. Because I say invest, viewers, because we don't have someone to match a 401k for us. We have to invest in our own retirement if we want to make sure we can retire. Again, privilege. But that being said, like that's just something I've really been driving home into my head these last few months, especially this past year, of just like, there's no shame in not becoming a Mr. Beast. You don't have to. Yeah. There's no shame in, any of it. And I say this as someone who's obviously benefited, and I've had, I'm very lucky with my growth. I'm very happy with my growth. I'm very lucky to have gotten where I've gotten. I looked at the overall performance of my channel, and it is on the decline. Like, I am declining. I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. If it's at a nice plateau of just, hundreds of thousands of views that can cover costs for my team, myself and stuff, and I get to make what I want to make, fuck yeah. That's a good life.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really, at a certain point, it does just become about being comfortable. Like I've had like lots of ups and downs. But like, like at a certain point, I stopped like even caring about subscriber number. It's more about like, okay, well, I just want all of y'all that are here to see what's going on, to see like what I'm doing. And if you like it, that's cool. If more people come, that's cool. If people leave and more people come, that's cool too. But, I haven't like put too much emphasis on it. I think about when I hit 100K, I was in college. And
outstanding, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
To do that in college, outstanding.
I was, I was watching like Brandy and Mr. Whiskers in the dorm between classes and stuff like that. But I remember when it happened, I was like, back when, because now if you look on YouTube, they have like 91.6K. Like it looks like that now. But before it was like an actual number. Yeah. The whole number would be there. And I remember like constantly refreshing until it came up. And I remember it coming up and I was waiting for the euphoria, and I never got it. Like I was like, when am I gonna feel what I'm supposed to feel? Yeah. And I got like texts from family members and stuff saying like, yeah, bro, next stop 1 million. I'm like, shit, if I don't feel something now, what the hell will I feel then? Like, so
you're chasing that feeling. Like you all know that feeling exactly. We're describing it right now. Like there is something just innately euphoric of seeing that number, that those little bars go. It's in the algorithm. It's going crazy. It's going parabolic. Oh shit. YouTube's
like,
that
app that they gave us is the worst thing they could have possibly given us.
Put it in my studio. Put it in my arm right there,
It is that 1 out of 10, forget it, but the fireworks,
I hate that shit. The fireworks, those bastards.
Insane.
Why is the fireworks on my because YouTube's Twitter, they're like, take a vacation. Don't work yourself too hard. Fuck you. Fuck you. Liars. They are lying up their ass when they're like,
the worst.
No, because I think about that scene from, because they're like, no, just take a break. And then it cuts to Prince of Egypt where it's like, faster, and it's like, God, because they don't give a shit about us. We are we are just a means to an end.
Yeah.
Because as soon as we're
peddling their product. We're basically like, we're a vehicle for their ads.
Exactly. And if you can't be that, that vehicle, someone else will. They'll throw somebody else in. And that's where it's like, it really does come down to like, as an individual, you have to find it for yourself with what is fulfilling and brings you, a sense of feeling content. Because for YouTube, they'll say until you're dead, until you've given everything, until you've gone as high as you can, until you've given it all you got. Because they will always measure you by your top performer. And they always expect you to do better and better and better and better. Yeah. That's impossible, eventually you will come to a decline, and that's okay. A decline, a plateau, but that's why. I'm not trying to make this sound therapeutic to be like, that's why I'm awesome, but there's nothing wrong with, I mean, I remember them saying, I'm hearing it somewhere where it's like, it's harder to get 100,000 subs than it is to get 1 million. And I absolutely believe that.
That's real. Yeah,
it's
that's real.
hard.
I
because
think that's true.
Well, because you're starting from nothing.
Yeah.
I
think that's true.
So sorry, this really was a mad. I feel like I'm with my people.
If we could do this the whole time and not talk about the cartoons.
I know. We gotta. I mean, maybe we'd come back and talk about the cartoons. No, we probably should pivot into the cartoons. As good as this has been, but that just means we have to have you back and do 3 more another time and more YouTube therapy.
Because we definitely had other things we were going to talk about too. But
yeah, we had questions for you. Didn't need them. That was great.
That means we got good chemistry. It's sincere because we're all cut from the same cloth. We're all like harmonizing in our ups and downs. Feels good.
Exactly. Yeah, all right. Well, let's get into these episodes. Let's dive in. So the 3 episodes you chose were King of the Hill, Dangle Love. You chose Primal, Plague of Madness, and Moral Orel's 2-part season 2 finale, Nature, part 1 and 2. We'll start with King of the Hill. I asked this about all of them. I want to ask, why did you choose Dangle Love?
Dangle Love, mainly because of the ending of that episode. There are moments where, we've seen love stories multiple times in Disney animated films, and they all kind of follow the same story beats. And I know it's kind of odd for me to bring that up and then compare it to an episode of King of the Hill. But for King of the Hill, because we don't get Boomhauer episodes often. Synopsis for those who don't know. In this episode, Boomhauer is more of the playboy character of the neighborhood. Not like, Quagmire levels, of course.
He's like a normal guy, Quagmire, that wouldn't be ashamed to hang around.
Well said. But the show's given the impression that Quagmire has commitment issues. He's typically the one in relationships.
Boomhauer.
Or Boomhauer, I'm sorry. Quagmire does have relationship issues as well. I'm sorry. Thank you. Boomhauer, and that he, because I do like that the show is smart enough to kind of reveal over time throughout the show that, John Redcorn's feeling like he's being cuckolded from having a son due to Dale and Nancy. That's good writing. That's a good way to develop his characters and do something fresh. And not be derivative with Dale, is raising John Redcorn's son. Isn't he being cuckolded? It's like actually Una reversal. Yeah. Now it's John who's feeling that level of want and emptiness. And then for Boomhauer, it's like, he's always with the girls, and he's the guy who dumps the girls, and they get a little bit too close after he trades paint with them. He's like, I'm done. So in this episode, Boomhauer falls in love with a girl. She's the one who's now treating him like he's the booty call. And he's like, wait, no, I love you. And the episode starts off with Bill meeting this girl. And Bill's the sad, depressed guy who was divorced by Lenore, cheated on by Lenore, his ex-wife. And he's the sad guy of the entire neighborhood of the cast, where he's like, I'll never meet a woman, until he did. And then the show's like, we'll ignore that. But that was always an odd episode with Khan's mom.
Yeah. I watched that one a couple weeks ago, and I was like, so this ends with them together. What the
fuck? even then, Bill brings her up later that season, and
that's towards the end of the show, right?
No, I think it was in the middle of the series of the show.
So they just kind of ignored it later.
Well, I remember
that episode's cell animated. I remember that at least.
Right.
So what was her name? Her name was not.
Damn, I just watched that one.
Noma? No. So
no, you're close. You are close.
Something
you
like
are
that.
Close. Yeah.
But because he brings her up in conversation with the guys in a later episode that season. But I think the story goes that the producers or the writers of the show are like, this kind of ruins Bill. Bill is most interesting when he suffers, especially with relationships. So to give him a woman, to give him a relationship, a partner, it kind of defeats the purpose of his character. So, which I'm sorry, now I'm off the beaten path, but the episode speaks to me because Bill is delighting that Boomhauer is suffering this episode, where he's the one who got dumped. He's the one where the girl has the power. She's the one that he wants. And Boomhauer has never felt this before, and he's freaking out. I think he proposed to her like, you know, within 2 days of meeting her or so. And to have Bill being like, "How's it feel?" You know, because he was being made fun of before because Bill wanted the same girl. She said she obviously didn't. She did not reciprocate those emotions. But it ends with Bill seeing how depressed Boomhauer is and having empathy, and he's like, "I'm gonna talk to him." Amateurs, grabs Boomhauer off his bed.
Good. Oh, it's so good.
Right? you got Dale and Hank who are so utterly dense because they've been married for so long. And they're like, you know, there's that part where like they go tomcatting with Boomhauer.
Yeah, there's a woman.
It's a fucking crossing guard.
yes. Boomhauer, there's a woman. I love that line. And when she brings him back, and Dale's like, "Oh, here she's coming back. Pretend you're asleep."
Yeah, you know? So good. Pretend you're asleep is perfect.
Yeah, at the crosswalk in your car.
Yeah,
it really shines because what makes King of the Hill such a good show is how consistent it is, how smart it is, how it puts forth so much effort to remind you about the personalities of these characters. I watched the episode this morning too of Hank dreaming of Nancy naked. And he goes to John Redcorn to talk about his dream. And they're both sitting on a little like love chair or a little bench. And you just see Hank like scooting far away with his legs in a different direction while John is like leaning over talking to him. And I'm like, that's good. You know, way to keep fleshing out your character without saying a word. Yeah. That Hank's uncomfortable to even sit next to another man. That says so much. But I guess that entire pep talk from Bill, it was like, you know, you're in hell now, Boomhauer. And the only way, and you see a tunnel, and in that tunnel is a freight train of hurt coming right at you. And all you can do is let it hit you and find your feet. I know, you know, I've felt that hurt more than I, you know, can say. But look at me, you know, I drag myself out of my house every day. I'm getting fatter. I'm getting older. But somehow I find my feet. I'm digging holes. I'm falling into them. And tomorrow I'm going to a ladies' prison. You know, and the first thing these ladies will see in the first 20 years is me. You know, I love that because it says so much about both of them. It does, and their kindness. You know, both. I mean, obviously, both have the idea. I've seen this more often nowadays in the current landscape of media where folks are it's problematic. I'm like, can we just have characters who are flawed and let us learn from them and be able to identify like the kindness in characters? Like imperfect characters exist because imperfect people exist. Spoiler alert, most of us are imperfect. As a matter of fact, all of us are. That's so true. Like I've known people who are like, oh, you know, Hank Hill, he's problematic. You know, he's disgusting. I don't like him. I'm like, he's a loving man.
I'm about to say those are the people that don't even like engage with like what this cartoon even is or what it's about. You know what I mean? Like that's actually like around the time I met Johnny. He made this very cathartic video about why Hank would not vote for Trump back when everybody was saying that he would. And because I couldn't wrap my brain around people that grew up watching it at 8 p.m. on Adult Swim, thinking that this is the man you think will vote for Trump. How did you even like get there?
Because they're not watching, they're paying attention.
Right, yeah. You just see like, it takes place in Texas.
Yeah.
Like
he's a Texan.
You know what? Yeah.
Answer.
Yeah.
That's your answer. Yeah.
That's the answer.
They're all assholes.
But in reality, it's like Hank has demonstrated these values that he builds his life around, his foundation. Some of them are archaic, some of them are flawed, but at the core of it all, what makes Hank such a good person is that he's a good person. He's looking for someone who's willing to, he has integrity. And he can detect that integrity in other people,
even if he disagrees with those people. That's like the key. Like that's my favorite thing about the show is how generally it's about Hank finding some kind of integrity in something he doesn't understand. Like that's one of it's one of my favorite aspects of the show is, and even like, and that I think is also the core of his relationship with Bobby as well, where it's like, he doesn't get him. And then he finds a way to understand it better, even if he isn't comfortable with it. He understands it a little better. He becomes a more understanding person. Yeah.
It's such a wonderful social commentary about generational differences. And I'm already bracing myself for folks who are going to watch the reboot or the continuation and go, "Oh, it's woke now."
It's woke now. They're already saying it before it's out.
I'm already sick of it. I'm already like, none of you paid attention to the show originally, where Hank shook the hand of George W. Bush and was like, "It's limp, I can't vote for him." Well, why the fuck would Hank vote for Trump? He's a New Yorker.
I know. I know. He's a swindling New Yorker who puts ketchup on steaks and eats them well done. Like he detests that man.
That is literally all you need. That is all you need.
No, that's it. That's a wrap, dude. You did your homework. It goes to show how much more deep Hank is as a character and how little attention people paid to understanding his character. Because Hank is like, the New York businessman who eats steak with ketchup. No, he's not voting for him. He won't vote probably. And I know the show was kind of he voted without revealing who he voted for. They didn't say
who he voted for. Yeah,
right. Because Hank is like, he has an Arrested Development with like patriotism, where he's like, I do love America. Yeah. And the show does a good job of kind of talking about, I brought this up with my girlfriend a few days ago, where it was the episode with the Alamo. And you have that guy who's a director who's trying to do all this revisionist history of like, Davy Crockett was, an alcoholic, and all these other people are terrible people who have got really bad past and histories. And here's the thing. Yes, most people throughout history are pretty bad, and you can find some terrible people. But the way Hank summarized it, where he's like, I find that these men who died at the Alamo, it was a sacrificial battle, and they died brave, and I think that's inspiring.
Yeah.
Okay. In that context, that's totally fine. I feel that, yes, there's a lot more we can dig into to say that, like, if you look, the devils are in the details, but like, I feel like the show did a good job of looking at different polar opposites of political ideologies and finding a nice middle ground where its foundation is of kindness and looking for something of integrity. Yes. And like you said, Johnny, in your video with like Hank and Bobby, like the core, the nucleus of the show is their relationship and finding common ground.
Yes, exactly.
Because they both love each other.
Yeah, and that's why and it's going to be so frustrating when, like, granted, I guess we don't know for sure what the reboot's going to be, because there's rumors that they'll age them up, that it might be a whole new scenario, or maybe, who knows, maybe it'll just be set in modern times. But like, if they're dealing with modern issues, they're going to have to deal with ideas that people consider woke, whether or not like that is whether or not they're saying they're all in on it, or they're like just they're going to have to use them to illustrate the differences in generations again. Like that is the only way it's going to work.
And it's so weird to me that people have become allergic to that, because that's what the cartoon was when it was on the air. Like it was the same thing. Bobby was a kid from 1997. Things that were around in 1997 are in the cartoon, and they were current back then. They're just nostalgic to us now. So if you have this cartoon that talked about current things, when it comes back, don't you think it's going to talk about the things of today?
Yes.
But I think they expect the cartoon to critique those things. But I don't think they were watching the right cartoon at that point. If that's what you think, if you think it's going to be like on like a certain side, or even just the idea in general of like, I better not see Bobby with an iPhone or some stupid shit like that. Like they do that with like The Simpsons too.
Sure.
And it's like that cartoon is relentlessly about what is happening right now. Of course, Homer is around NFTs because they always here. They here now. So that's what they're gonna talk about.
I think,
like, I don't know.
I think a lot of it is like, okay, the shows and what they're about remain consistent. Like with King of the Hill, there will be things brought up like social media, politics, what's socially acceptable and not acceptable, because the show's always been about that. But at its core, it's about the characters finding common ground.
Yeah.
However, folks are going to say the show is woke, or it's
if there's any common ground found, they'll say, "Oh wow, it's woke now."
Exactly.
But that's what
exactly.
But it just was always doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the main thing is that people, I'm like, well, what's changed? And I'm like, the amount of information we get nowadays, the way we are just always like, there's this onslaught of information, media, politics, fear, uncertainty, it's always being showered at us. So we feel overwhelmed because there's so many ways we are receiving this from all directions, that then we look at King of the Hill and go, here's another moment of it also, being relentless or unrelenting in its wokeness. And it's like, no, King of the Hill's always been this way.
Yeah.
I beg you to wake up and pay attention. And I guess, I don't know, not everyone can be cartoon freaks like us, but at the same, but like King of the Hill, I remember growing up with it. I thought it was boring.
Same.
too.
And
Same.
Yeah.
And it's become one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it's because
It
I was
aged well.
I was describing it to my roommate, and he came to me like months later and was like, the more I watched the show, the more I agree with what you said. I told him it's like King of the Hill is the only show that I know to where like the more you can watch it, one episode can be your first episode, then you can go and watch the whole show. If you go back and watch that first episode you watched, it is 50 times better because you know everybody.
Yes.
When you know everybody, everything is hilarious. Everything is smart. Just even the episode that we're talking about, that scenario that they made Bill the one to lift Boomhauer up is glorious character writing. And it's all because we know who both of them are already.
Exactly. Because that's, I guess, to bring it full circle, and like well said, by the way, is that, throughout the entire show, we know Boomhauer is the player and Bill is the loser who can never find love.
Yeah.
So for him to take his experience to help rebuild Boomhauer up, and for also Boomhauer to be like, because at the end, he cleans himself off. He's getting in his car. Hank's like, I'm gonna go off on a date, and he's like, nah, I'm dang old good right now. I'm gonna, dang old blah, blah. And he goes to the ice cream lady, and he apologizes, and we'll just be friends.
I love
That's
that
good
scene.
growth. That's a great moment.
Which I always love that. And I never you can tell this story without that last apology bit, but I love that they do it. It is so
I
great.
think it's so good. It's my favorite moment in the whole episode. I mean, I love this. Yeah. I love the Bill and Boomhauer together, but like, I think it's because you don't necessarily expect that. So like for like, it's technically the second to last beat, but it's just a really sign of the growth you see in this episode. Before we go more into, but I also want to talk about this. You mentioned that there's not many Boomhauer episodes. There's like 2. like when you really look at the scheme of things, like he's got some subplots where he's involved in things, but like episodes where the A plot is Boomhauer focused, it's this, and it's the one with his brother played by Brad Pitt, and I don't think there's any others.
Which I got confused before I put it on. I thought that's what we were watching. Yeah.
Well, I knew it was a Boomhauer episode, and I was like, which one is it? It's one of the 2, and they're both about him struggling in the love department, which is interesting that the 2 Boomhauer episodes are about his relationship and romantic struggles, because even though he's seen as this like playboy who never struggles in that world, that is the main struggle he has in the show as a main character. Yeah,
he has very sincere like moments. It's like they use him sparingly because the strength of his character is like less is more. Have him in his support. I know that as far as moments, he's been a little bit more focused. Like there's the episode where he's like in a inner tube going down.
I was just thinking about that. Yep.
There's that. There's also the one where he surfs, which is like as close as we get to maybe in episode 3. Though I feel like it's still the B plot.
Right. There's the one where he goes to Canada in the B plot, and he falls in love with the French Canadian, right?
Right. And he speaks perfect French to her.
Yes. Yeah. He does not. He doesn't have his speaking style when he speaks French. Yeah.
I feel like so much of the show makes it so great is there's such oh gosh, what's what I'm looking for? Like genuine passion and how they go above and beyond to really drive home the point of these characters, where, usually to write it or animate it, especially, it's like, it costs a bit extra, or it's, we don't need to. They do it because they want to show you like this helps to really like drive it home what these characters are about. again, like just seeing Hank sitting with John Redcord, I'm like, without saying a word, it shows you that John Redcord is very comfortable while Hank's very uncomfortable.
Right.
And how with Patch Boomhauer, with that episode, yeah, we get to discover some lore behind him, where it's like he almost, was close to being with this girl, and now we get to see his brother. They use him sparingly, but exceptionally effectively.
Right.
Where it's like, yeah, I'm here. I know this is an occasion, a special occasion to get a Boomhauer episode. And the one with him getting dumped and Bill building him back up. Just because, and I guess to bring it all home is that speech from Bill, is such a good life lesson.
Yeah.
Because there's moments.
That's great.
Sometimes, whether it's a relationship or, there's other ways it applies to moments in life where it's like, it's got to let it hit you. There's no avoiding it. Let it hit you. Feel what you got to feel. Find your feet. Get back up.
Yeah.
That's a good lesson.
Definitely. Yeah. What a good show. I'm so glad you chose this episode. What a good one to talk about. I would say, honestly, we could probably talk about King of the Hill the whole time if we wanted to.
Right.
But what we should do is we should have you back, bring another King of the Hill episode.
I would love that.
Yeah, let's do it again.
I will say,
go ahead.
this is one of my favorite King of the Hill episode titles. Dang Old Love.
Dang Old Love.
Only comparable to the episode directly before it, which you just referenced, Saber, Suge Knight. Glorious title. The best title.
They have good titles in this show.
I have one more for you too. Bill with the hot dog eating contest, The Fat and the Furious.
That's pretty good.
So good.
That's pretty good.
All right, we didn't even talk about any of the funny moments in this episode either. There's so many.
I got some lines.
Bill falling into the holes over and over is so funny. He digs the holes. It felt like this is the first time I watched it, and I was like, "Oh, this is like Sideshow Bob stepping on rakes over and over."
Yeah.
This is really good. Oh man.
I got Hank when he says, I once told Peggy her hair looked nice. She still mentions it. He's like, shit, she is starving.
I got one.
Yeah.
I still quote this. When Bill fell into the pool, I'm thinking pushed in by Boomhauer, because Bill was antagonizing because he was holding the girl's panties.
Yeah.
And he fell in and he goes, "This is a digital watch. I could have been electrocuted." I love that one. That's a great line.
Honestly, I think my biggest laugh in the episode is funny because it's a small moment and it's actually like kind of an important character moment for what's happening in this episode. But it's just when he goes to propose and she opens the door and just goes, "Boomhauser?"
Boomhauser is good. It's good.
Have you always?
It's so funny.
You know what okay, there's two things I want to bring up. Number one, I always forget that the C plot, I guess, of this episode is Bobby just wants some fucking ice cream.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And Boomhauer just scares the fucking ice cream lady away. And there's and every time Boomhauer brings a girl into his house, they play the same song, but because of sampling, to me, it sounds like he's fucking all these chicks to Stand by Eminem.
Right. Dude, I think about that too. I was thinking about this episode, how they had a pretty decent music licensing budget because they played Dido multiple times.
Yeah, like 3 times.
When he's flying and when he's driving away after he gets broken up with, he's playing Barracuda. Those are like big songs.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Testament that I love so much about King of the Hill, and I'll bring it back to this episode in a second, but like it felt like such a wonderful addition to like the family sitcom, family animated sitcom, without feeling like it was derivative.
Yeah,
right. It's like King of the Hill feels solely unique compared to The Simpsons or Family Guy. King of the Hill just feels like such an honest, earnest, loving show, and also it did its homework of paying attention to the culture of Texas, the different things they talk about, and also like even the character chemistry and dynamic. It's like, this is different. Usually it's the big doofus dad. Okay, let's make. What if the dad's more of the straight man? Yeah. What if he's the one who's uncomfortable? That's I like that.
He's not. It's like he's Hank is confident in his own way, but his repression makes him like deeply uncomfortable a lot of the time, and that's like almost something you oh, it seems like Homer or Peter should have more shame more of the time, and Hank is the one who's always kind of like just like, oh no, I don't know about this,
And yet that's so accurate, because I grew up in the Southeast and I've met many people, especially like Southern men, who are this way, where they just feel like, like they can't hug you, or if you bring up something that's a bit emotional, they almost like, talk about football instead.
Right.
They're so emotionally repressed that they don't know how to let it out. And the thing is, they're not unemotional beings. They just then they have a conduit to put those emotions, like football or work or something else. And for Hank, with propane, with the with the Cowboys, with grilling, Hank's not an unemotional. On the contrary, he's a very emotional person. He's just been emotionally abused by his father, and now the story is, can he find an emotional connection with his very emotionally open son?
Right.
Beautiful. I love it.
And what's good about the show is that like there isn't a single episode where they have this exact conversation. That is something that you pick up through knowing his story, knowing how he grew up, and then you deduct in your own mind like, oh, that's why he's that way. That's why he's like reserved. Like they don't spell it out for you. It's all in just like knowing who he is.
I have the show hits so close to home to me because my grandfather, my dad are more or less kind of the same in some regards. My grandfather, who's still alive, he's like 96. He fought in Vietnam. He's not nearly as evil, or as malicious as Cotton, but he has that, old generation, like kind of decor of, you keep it to yourself, you do manly things. There's a sense of pride and honor, which in that, and even in the show with Cotton, the show takes moments to kind of like have empathy towards that, where it's like, these are World War II vets. What they did was really hard. Doesn't excuse bad behavior, but we can at least see that their sacrifice was a difficult one. And we can at least have respect for that. Then my father, I rarely get hugs from him, and it's not like him withholding them. He's just not that kind of person. I understand that. Versus me, where I'm like, I'm hugging my friends all the time. I love giving hugs. So, which by the way, I'm glad that a lot of, guys in this generation are a lot more open to hugging, because it feels good. It feels brotherly and feels like, okay, we can be open about this. So I see that with Hank, where it's like, because my dad's not an unemotional guy. He just doesn't, he was raised in a way where he grew up during like the 50s and 60s. And it's like, that was a different time. There are different values. There's different social norms compared to now. So I guess to bring it full circle, I do wonder with the reboot, if you want to call it that, if they do age things up where Bobby is an adult, will he have a kid?
Right.
Will, because unfortunately I know that Luann and Lucky, well, they could be in the show if they recast them.
If they recast both, but
right. But we could have good Hank, and we could have
Gracie. Yeah, that was my pitch. Is make Bobby a young adult who doesn't have a kid yet, but a young adult.
Thank you.
And then have them all of them have to help raise Gracie and good Hank, and that's where you get the generational divide between them, between Bobby, between Hank. You can really layer that generational divide again, without changing what generation Bobby is from, even though the show has a sliding timeline even within its original run, but still, like, that way it does, without making Bobby feel like he's now a zillennial who's like on TikTok all the time or whatever, It's
I don't want that. I don't want him being presented as some incompetent, like, helpless millennial Zoomer, whatever.
It would kind of go against the show a little bit, because they're trying to show you that he has the capability with how he is to grow up and be a normal guy that like is capable of taking care of himself. So if they were to make him like this like man child, I think it would like go against what the cartoon is.
I think he needs to have a career that is working for him, but Hank wholly doesn't understand. like something like what we do, like something that has to do with like with more modern technology and audiences that like Hank's just like, I don't understand, or like like he obviously his
Are
big
you the
things are-
manager of your channel? You know, he'd be
right,
asking questions
exactly,
like that.
exactly.
That's good.
He's he needs, and I would love to see him blend his comedy with some of his other passions, like his passion for cooking or passion for meat, as we saw in the finale of the show. There's a lot. I think there's just a lot of directions you can go with it.
Can I share something with you all real fast?
Sure.
So if I was writing the show, if I was storyboarding it, so we'd have aged up like Connie, we'd have aged up Joseph. I feel like this would be the funniest thing ever, in my opinion. I'm biased, but like with the scene where we showed Joseph, you know, I want the camera panning to the side to his feet, and then it's panning upwards, and you see this beautiful, handsome Native American, and we're like, oh, it's Joseph. He looks just like John Redcorn. Hey, Bobby, you know, I want to hear that voice that never left. So that's what I want. I still want him, just as a reminder. He aged gracefully physically, but still has that
so awkward. Yeah.
And he's working for Dale Dead's Bugs. That's what I want.
And it's impressive that they had two different voices for him. They had his voice changed, but they're both so awkward. Like the first was actually Brittany. Yeah, it was Brittany Murphy doing the voice for the first half of the show, and yeah, they still just maintain. You're right. He would have to still be.
That's funny. That's good.
I would love that so much.
Put me in, coach. I'm ready.
All right, for the second episode you've brought to us today, you brought the episode of Primal called Plague of Madness. Same question as before. Why this one?
I love Primal. I love how beautiful it is. I love how visually strong it is, as far as like we don't really need to have much dialogue, which I know season 2 is a little bit more of, but still, compared to most shows, it's like, you know, a fraction. Plague of Madness was just a moment where I was like, I'm glad there are still moments of surprise in storytelling, where I'm like, dinosaurs, zombies, zombified dinosaurs. What the fuck? You know, and this just how visceral and violent it was, and I because to start it off, I mean, I just love how much Gindi uses silence and quiet and in his stories and his episodes. Samurai Jack definitely was my crash course and introduction to that. To see them Primal continue and flourish was just, you know, beautiful. But to see these sauropods walking around being peaceful, to see how everything went to hell so quickly. So for those who don't know, in this episode, the entire show of Primal is a like very, you know, artistic liberty take on like prehistoric mankind with dinosaurs and mammoths and monsters. It's fun. You know, don't overthink it. And the story is about just a dinosaur named Fang, who's a T-Rex with her caveman spear, and they're just getting through in the world. You know, that's more or less the synopsis. Very cutthroat, indifferent, cruel natural world that they're, you know, trying to survive. And they run into monsters of the week. And in this episode, it's a zombified long neck who got bitten by some little zombie dinosaur, and then the infection hit this creature hard, and it went mad. Bugs of madness, and it started just killing everything. And I think the thing that got me the most for this episode, there's two main emotional like pings that really got me. One, how much this creature was suffering. This long neck was not doing it out of, you know, jubilation, killing things. There was this thing wanted to die. It as much as it kept killing things, and it was relentless, which is point 2, by the way. But I felt like this thing was in utter pain and just wanted to be put out of its misery.
Totally.
And because throughout all of Primal, there are moments where Spear and Fang run into some really formidable, if not like just outclassed enemies and bad guys. This was the first time where they're like, nope, we're not even fighting this thing. We're out of here. Like there's a scene where they're like running down through a valley gorge, and their eyes are like, and you see like the long neck's neck kind of like come closer to the shot as it's running closer to them. And I'm like, dude, that's terrifying. When it's something that is so massive, so violent, and also so contagious, it's like, nope, we're out of here. We're out of here. and I guess also the visual presentation of its eyes, bleeding and red, and you see how empty it is at the same time. It's weird. It's like this, yin yang of, you can feel this creature's soul still stuck in there, but at the same time, it's like something else is possessing it, like a demon. And I felt this just crushing sadness for the animal. I'm like, I want it to die just so it can be put to rest. At the same time, Spear Fang, get the fuck out of here. This thing's gonna murder you.
So I think this is maybe just a testament to how like ingrained dinosaurs are into our culture and our media landscape, and like just to us as people. But like, I think one of the things that makes this even scarier is that it is a dinosaur that is typically not violent, and that is and like they do obviously go to the effort of showing that at the beginning and showing what these dinosaurs were like before, and they're harmonious and they're giving each other hugs and they're just eating these different
having
fruits
babies
together. But even just like, even if they hadn't shown that, just knowing how I generally see these kinds of long neck dinosaurs, the Brachiosaurus type dinosaurs, as being these just like gentle, large, calm, we're eating our leaves and doing our own business type of dinosaurs, then to see that dinosaur chasing them down is scarier than like it to me. It was scarier than something like a T-Rex or a raptor that you would think is already scary. Yeah.
It feels wrong. Something is inherently wrong where it's like, this is such a weird combination. It's very effective. But you're right. It's like a long neck. I remember being like, oh, it's a mighty dinosaur. It can whip around a predator. But to see it being the violent one, to bite, to scratch. The
aggressor. Yes,
the aggressor. That's the way to put it, the aggressor. There's even a moment where at the start, where the main dinosaur zombie is just killing all of its, herd members. There's a great moment of like just animated like characterization where you have this other brontosaurus do this thing where it goes with its head. You see it kind of shake its head a bit and then push forward to fight the other zombie. I'm like, that's good. Those little moments of you didn't have to do a head shake like that, but you can feel that like no, this stops now, only for it to get completely bodied within seconds.
Right.
That's rough.
Man, Gendy is so good at that stuff. Just like giving real personality to things that don't, without any words at all. Yeah.
It speaks to the human soul regardless of language.
Yeah, no doubt. This is a scary
I think it's
episode.
I think it's funny that last week Hector brought in the pilot.
That's right. Last week we had my friend Hector Navarro. When we watched the pilot, and we did it a couple weeks ago. But so for the last episode we did a Primal episode.
That's awesome.
And I've actually not watched the whole show, but. Yeah.
He asked us. He said, "When you guys watched for the first time, did you get to the zombie thing?"
Yeah, and
we both said no. And now we're on the zombie one.
It's the standout episode of the entire series, in my opinion. It's there's something about it that just feels so different compared to the rest, and I think it's because of just the presentation of, again, a brontosaurus, which I know dinosaur not to be like, brontosaurus isn't really, whatever. You know what I'm saying? To see violence come from such a usually lumbering, peaceful giant, or at least not the aggressor, and then to add on to that, the way it's so unrelentingly, like, if that's the right word, it's chase. The way it's like, you can crush me, I can fall. The only way I'm really going out is to burn on an atomic level, and at the end to see Spear, and by that scene with like the volcano where they're trying to get through. I get chills. I'm getting chills right now to see it like rise out of the lava, and still, while it's burning to death, is still coming at you. It's like, this thing won't fucking die, and it is possessed. And then at the very end, when it's finally starting to come to the fire, to see Spear and Fang, they almost look stricken, like dumbfounded, where they're just watching in awe.
Yeah, it's like they feel pity. It feels like they feel pity for it. They're like, even though this thing was so close to killing them, you really feel that Spear is looking at it with like sadly, like with heartbreak for the creature. Yeah.
Right.
Such a good moment.
Oh, I'm getting goosebumps again. It is so good. And again, there's one of the biggest, like, I guess, things that like would I would call scary, or I would consider a fear, is being pursued. When something is just coming at you, and you're like, I'm trying to get away, but it's not giving up. It is still coming at me. And for them to be like, we're trying to get the fuck away from this thing. We thought it was dead. It literally fell into a volcano. It still won't fucking stop.
Yeah.
Good Lord, what will stop this thing? It's it's unstoppable.
Mm-hmm. That dream sequence too is great with that red background. So good. It's it's visually striking. Like, and it strikes the right amount of fear in you.
Right. The idea of like the skin was melting off.
Yeah. Oh man, it's masterfully done. Even that, like, it like takes like a bite out of like his side.
Yeah.
It's just it's rough. It's so good.
Good stuff.
This might have been the shot you were referencing earlier, Steven. But the shot that was so creepy to me, it's when they're running through the valley, like kind of around the corner, like around the bend of the valley, and you just see the head of the dinosaur slowly become more into view. It's just a little bit, and then the closer it gets, the more in view it is. That shot is so scary.
That's rough. No, to this day, I don't get scared of like traditional stuff as far as like zombies go, but that moment of just, like you said, seeing its head slowly come into frame where it's like, oh shit, it's gaining on me.
Yeah.
It's like that's fucking scary. And also like looking at Spear and Fang's eyes where they're just like wide eye, like,
yeah.
That's really what it's the expressiveness of like the gesture and the drawing. Like that, you can, even without the face, you can see the fear in that running stance. Like the way that character, the way that he's animated. Well, it's like, oh, he is terrified.
Right. Well, it's like, I love that they didn't even do an expression of worry or concern, because I kind of wonder, like, it's one of those things where you wonder what would happen in certain scenarios. Would I fight? Would I run? What would happen? Because we think, we're kind of orchestrating in our heads a scenario, but in reality, it is you're alert and you're just moving. So having them with their eyes wide open, just in a state of shock and running, seems pretty damn accurate to how it would probably go down if you had a zombie dinosaur chasing after you.
For sure, yeah.
For real.
Good stuff.
Great episode. Really
too bad the
advice.
ending. Wait.
Oh, we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it. Haven't seen it.
We're gonna finish this whole show on this podcast.
After Hector's episode and after this, I like truly am like, this is probably the next show I binge. I'm probably gonna binge all both seasons of this.
We might not even have to. People might just keep bringing it in.
Yeah, but I want to now.
I'm morbidly curious to see what you all think of it in its entirety. The season 2 is such a vibe check moment, and that's all I'll say.
Okay, all right. And it's interesting because there's going to be a third season, but allegedly it's like it's going to be anthology. It's going to be a new thing, new characters. So yeah,
which I'm here for.
Yeah, I mean, I'll watch anything this guy makes. I've been a fan since his Clone Wars.
That guy.
Like since his
Dexter's Lab for me.
Yeah, I'm about to say I
was never that
Dexter's
big on
Lab.
Dexter. I like Dexter now, but as a kid I was more of a Nick kid than a Cartoon Network kid.
Oh, okay.
And I liked Dexter, but I was never hooked on Dexter. But his Clone Wars was like that show. I became obsessed with Clone Wars.
Clone Wars is awesome. I remember watching it when I was in the 2000s, being like, "This is the coolest shit ever!" So hyped and so action packed. Dexter's Lab, I fucking love it.
Yeah,
it is. Oh man,
it's so.
That's
funny.
one of those. That's one of those things. Like you put it on like now, it is relentlessly funny.
Yeah,
like,
right.
It is. You can't even some of that, especially. Like you watch that show and you understand like, okay, this is everybody like on their first job, kind of. Like this is everybody like figuring it out, like trying to see like how to make a cartoon. And for that to be the end result, for it to just be this like super fun, like hilarious, very like it's pretty, like it's expressive. It's great. It's great. And that movie's good too. That Ego Trip.
Oh, Ego Trip was great. I loved the episode with Badextra with the giant like axe monster kaiju in Japan.
That one's good.
But I swear, one of my favorite things about Dexter is the sound design. And I don't know if it's a sound pack or editor or both or what, but I hear that the same sound effects I hear in like and like Powerpuff Girls as well, which makes sense because Craig worked on Dexter.
Yeah, the Hanna-Barbera pack.
I think that's it, honest to God. But like there's this sound effect that I can't really describe, but if you heard it, you'd be like, that's it. It's like, we have some kind of goopy food, and it's like, you know what I'm talking about?
I know that saying. I know. You know which one I've been trying to figure out. I was watching the Flintstones a couple days ago, and there's that sound that they make when they're running, and then they try to stop their feet, and like that kind of what is that? How do you even make that?
Dude, I feel like Foley is a lost art. Like,
okay, here we go. To bring it to the start of our podcast here, as far as conversation goes, that would be a really interesting video, is just talking about the history of sound design in animation.
Yeah, true.
Yet, would folks really dig that?
I feel like you can find
it's
that
very
audience.
niche.
Yeah. But it is like, how do you got to figure out the right way to frame it? That's a great, fascinating subject, though. That I know when people start watching, they would get hooked on in learning.
Right.
Kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's underappreciated art. Sound design is underappreciated art.
It's in the same vein as that H Bomber guy or Roblox. Oof.
Yep.
Video. Okay, now all three of us have to fight over who gets to do it. Since the video topic's here.
I'm not ready. I can't turn it off now.
You won.
Let's all collaborate on it. Let's do it together.
That'd be
Seriously.
fun.
Fuck it. Yeah, it would.
Honestly, that's almost like you could almost make a whole documentary about that. It's a pretty cool idea. And I do want to shout out, if you're a big fan of Dexter, Saber, our friend Hats Off Media made a really good Dexter's Lab
awesome.
retrospective. Have you seen that one?
He's one of those creators where I'm like, dude, if you would have started back in the early 2010s, you would have, like your quality and your style, I feel like are so like palpable, and
he has such an identity in his videos.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah.
I agree. If he would have started like early 2010s, he would have been somebody's entire personality.
Right.
Yes, I grew up with your stuff, and of course he's doing great work right now. But it's one of those things where it's like, damn, you're really good, dude. And I hope more folks find your videos.
I know he is one where like every time he makes a new video and I watch it, I'm like, I don't understand how this isn't the most popular video on the platform right now.
As soon as I saw his like little popsicle stick character, I'm like, oh shit! I'm like, this guy's got style.
Right.
Oh man. All right, let's move on to the last choice. You chose Moral Orel, Nature, the 2-part episode, season 2 finale. Why'd you choose Moral Orel for this?
So this was the episode that really made my head turn for the entire series, where I did a video about Moral Orel back in, I think it was 2022, and I knew that the show was kind of going through a little bit of a people are kind of going back to it, being like, wait,
resurgence.
Good resurgence. Thank you.
I was getting a lot of requests to cover it right around the time that you made that video. Yeah,
me too. You are inadvertently helping somebody's wish list right now, because they've been begging me and Johnny.
I would love to see y'all's takes on it, because like it's a show where, because I think Steve Reviews did a video before I did, but like I know of the video, but I didn't watch the video because I don't want to inadvertently pick up
it'd be opinions. Like that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But like I grew up Christian, Christian family, and nothing like a bunch of radical Christians, but Baptist enough to where like I went to a Christian private school, and I know about this lifestyle and these kinds of values in people. And for the show to present itself initially as a comedy that I thought was gross and stupid, I didn't like it as a kid. I watched it on Adult Swim when I was a kid and a teenager, and then I saw it again as an adult. And I'm like, that first season's pretty rough. Holy shit, do they hold their punches, and then they go, all right, let's fucking go. Let's talk about generational trauma. Let's talk about the really deep sadness of being stuck in a life that you don't want, but also that like you don't know what to do to change it. Because I'm talking about Orel's father, who is such a, people say, "Oh, Cotton's the worst." No.
Oh, dude, this guy stinks.
Yeah,
that's putting it lightly.
Yeah.
This guy's a real jerk. No, he's
not a fan.
Clay Puppington is like the opposite of Bandit Healer in every single way, where like you got like a man who this is truly a misery loves company kind of person, where like Cotton would have fun fucking with Hank and gaslighting him versus like a guy who shot his child on accident.
Right.
You know, it's like, no, Clay's evil. And and unfortunately it's like a little bit too real, where it's like, I've seen because in a family you're trapped, you know, and you can have your found family. You can break away from these lives of, because, you know, at the end of Moral Orel, there is a somewhat happy ending. It was rushed out because the network's like, let's wrap this up, you know, which sucks because they had some really heartfelt, very compelling episodes of the pipeline that couldn't see the light of day. But just the idea of like, let's talk about religious dogma and what it can do to a family. The way it can create this entrapment of like, you know, how do I get out? You know, and that you can kind of have empathy for certain characters where it's like, I can see how you got here. And I can see how, you know, it's almost like the misery is also the gift that keeps on giving. And how do you break that generational, you know, cyclical, cycle, cyclical cycle. But I just felt like the hunting trip was the moment where it all turned over for me. I'm like, holy shit, this is a very smart show that speaks to me in such a profound way, where Orel is like, you know, I'm a doe-eyed, dumb, you know, kid who means so well. And then it's like, okay, let's just drop the facade. You know, he's seeing how truly despicable his father is.
Right.
And his father is truly miserable. And his father is just so willing to weigh everybody else down, like someone who's drowning, grabbing his rescuer and dragging them down with him. It fucking hits hard because this shit happens all too often.
Word.
I had only seen I've seen a few episodes of season 1. I haven't watched the whole show. I've seen a handful of episodes, quite like what the show's doing. But then to watch this episode, which is obviously pretty deep into the show, it did feel like, having not seen the rest of it, it felt like a turning point. Like this and so like this, because in this episode, for him to see like the reality of his dad, but then there's that moment where he can take credit for killing the bear and make his dad proud, which is, from just the little I've seen of the show, is that moment where you would see him clamoring for, you know, he just wants his dad to be proud of him for doing something like that. For him to deny it and say, no, I don't, like basically saying, I don't want your validation in this
That's
moment.
great. That blew me away. I thought that was great storytelling.
Yeah.
It blew me away.
It's like, because throughout the show, it's like it tricks you into thinking it's some stupid, gross out comedy, which, you know, I understand that sentiment because I felt that sentiment. But if you can kind of hold it together and get to season 2 and definitely season 3, it's like, wow, this is a hard hitting, emotional, dramatic show that like does a 180 in its tone. And it almost feels like BoJack before BoJack in a way.
Sure.
Because there's a moment in the episode where Orel says, I hate you. And it's like, this is a kid who has been traumatized and misled and destroyed, who still has optimism and compassion for his father. But at this moment, it's like, my dad's not worth me having respect for. My father is not the man of God I thought it was. And I thought, man, I'm getting emotional now. I'm getting all chills too. The end of the show is so beautiful because you think the show is like, yeah, fuck Christians. And it's like, no, fuck radicalized ideologies, which can be Christian. They can be religious. They can be agnostic. They can be secular. It can be all kinds of things. But like, you know, any kind of radicalization, especially, let's be real here. Like, yeah, the church has done a good job of using that radicalization. And I'm not saying it's like some Reddit, you know, atheist. I'm not. Again, I was raised Christians, and I still know good Christians who are good people. I know bad Christians who are bad people. And that's what the story is about, is bad Christians who are miserable, but yet they're too afraid to question the religious dogma they live in, and the children they destroy along the way. And fuck, this is a good episode. Sorry.
Yeah, it's great.
It's good.
It's excellent. This is another one that made me think, okay, I got to watch through all of the show for sure. So I will probably be watching through Primal and Moral Orel soon. Sorry, go ahead.
When he shot him, my note says, "Oh my God," in all caps.
Right?
I was shook.
The way they set up the episode, I thought, honestly, I kind of thought, because I only have like the vaguest ideas of this show, having seen some of season 1, and then also I've just heard in the vague sense that season 3 is really dark. I've heard that. I've just heard that sentiment. And so the way they were setting up this episode, and especially the way they cliffhang between part 1 and 2, I thought Morel was going to kill his dad in this episode. Like I thought that was going to be what happened, and that and then season 3 would be them the family coping without the dad. But I do think him shooting Orel is insane, an insane sequence.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go for it.
No, I was going to say what gets me so much is season 3 also reveals let's find out about the backstory of the parents.
Okay,
how they come to be, as far as becoming married, and it's one of those things where so much of it is these are people who have mental illnesses and hardships and trials and tribulations, and they're not getting the help they need from the right sources.
Right.
As a matter of fact, they're fighting people that cause more hurt, more harm. You can't. There's a moment, I won't spoil it, where I'm like, you've got to be shitting me to think there was a moment where a character was so close to salvation, and then it was ripped away. And it's it's this pattern. And again, this is why because this is so true to actual. We all know this. I feel like we've seen, unfortunately, families of abuse, of people who are mentally ill or have families who obviously don't feel that empathy or compassion for taking care of their kids or their parents or siblings or whatever. And it's why does this happen? Why does this keep happening over and over and over? And it's because there's a misery to it, and the misery truly loves company.
Right.
Miserable people don't like being alone. They don't. They want to have someone to pull down with them and beat up and abuse.
Sure.
And kids are the easiest targets.
Yeah. These descriptions that you're you describing season 3 and these aspects of the show, it does sound just like BoJack. Where there's so many, there's so much of BoJack where you go back and you learn the traumas that created these characters. And I think that's the beauty of BoJack is it sounds like the show is, well, it sounds like it could be similar, but what I love about BoJack is that you've got a detestable character, then you go back and learn their backstory, and all of a sudden you feel empathy for them, and you're like, oh my God, that is so awful and tragic. And now you don't say, oh, that's okay that they're terrible. You say that is so tragic that's why they're terrible. Yeah, it's and so I imagine that's why a lot of people want me to cover this show. It sounds like it covers a lot of similar things.
It's perfect.
Yeah,
I feel like it's right up your alley. Because BoJack will give it this. It knew what it was about. While I think for more Orel, they needed to kind of trick Adult Swim into it a bit more.
Sure.
Where Adult Swim apparently, if I recall the story, one of their executives were like, "We're cool with this change in direction." Wait, never mind. Just kidding. We aren't. Actually, kill the show, cancel it. But BoJack knew it. Where it was going to start and where it was going to end, and its pacing, its transition from being a comedy with bits of drama to a drama with bits of comedy, was just outstanding. I mean, to this, I was actually considering the episode of BoJack with it was the episode when I only watched it once because it hit me so hard. It actually kind of freaked me out. But it's the one with the play where BoJack was seeing all the people who have died.
Oh, that's the second. The view from halfway down. Yeah. That's the second to last episode. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That episode where, because my girlfriend's a huge BoJack fan, she talks fondly about your videos, Johnny.
Oh, thanks. Cool.
But that scene where BoJack was like, see you on the other side. And he goes, "Oh, BoJack, there is no other side."
Yeah.
Oh my God. I actually had an existential attack when that happened.
Yeah.
Where I had to pause the show. I stood up and I'm like, oh no. And I'm okay. I've obviously made peace and that's just part of the human experience, but it's very cathartic because it's like that moment. It's like, BoJack, dude, this is the one life you get. All right. Yeah. And again, sometimes life's a bitch and you live or you keep living.
Yeah.
Yep. So good. Sorry, I just wanted to
it's
take
great.
You back off of that.
We always tend to do a little BoJack tangent here and there on the show. So
they expect it.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Bingo. Great choice of episodes. This is a really fun trio and all very different. That's what I loved. That's what I loved watching these three things. It's like, what an insane triple
I texted
feature.
Johnny. I texted Johnny in the middle of Primal and I was like, this is a wild trio.
I promise you I wasn't trying to be like, I gotta blow their minds, but more of I genuinely love these episodes. Dangled Love, Plague of Madness, and The Hunting Trip. Like these are all great shows. These are all great episodes. I mean, BoJack was another contender. I still gotta watch Midnight Gospel. I've been told
everyone
that's a really
keeps
good
telling me
show.
to watch that too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I gotta watch that. Yeah,
that one apparently is also very existential.
Yeah,
and part of me was like, am I forgetting other shows that are international that can speak volume as far as like and I'm like, yeah, I have a hard time being put on the spot, but I'm like, you know what? No, go with what really resonates. And I'm like,
right,
those three episodes
and
really
resonates.
resonates.
And that's what we want, because we want something that you're going to speak with that passion about. The same thing we were talking about that you can sense in the videos when you make them. Like we want to hear you geek out about why you love this stuff. That's like why we want to talk to people about these. Yeah.
So and thank you again. I'm really honored to be on the show. This has been like one of the most fun recording sessions, as far as like it's so effortless talking to you all.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
Boondocks was also another like contender. And have you all watched the show before?
Johnny hasn't.
I actually haven't. I've seen episodes, but I haven't watched through the whole show. I saw it when I've seen episodes here and there on Adult Swim when it was airing. Yeah.
All right.
So Turk, I'm currently catching up with your channel. So if you've done a video about this, I apologize for being, mindless without knowing. Have you covered the show at all?
Some years ago, when Charlie Murphy died, I did the one with a where they kidnap Oprah.
That's a good episode.
It's kind of a tribute to him. But like as far as like recently, nah. But I have a relentless amount of like love and respect for that cartoon.
Awesome.
I've seen it back to front so many times.
It's season 1 through 3. So I tried watching 4. I did not like it.
Dude.
Like everybody else though shares the same sentiment.
I tried to make a video about season 4 because I remember I just kept seeing like because the discussion never goes past like it sucks because Aaron wasn't there,
right?
Which like he was. They just took his name off, but but still, it was just kind of I was kind of like, okay, so like, is there a way that I can like approach this season and be like, not necessarily like it's not that bad, but like more like how like what's wrong, like what actually is wrong, and I could not finish the season. I was like, man, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. Like it was there are a few in that season that like I think have like. That are kind of inspired. There's the Pretty Boy Flizzy, the Chris Brown episode for the premiere. I think that one is. I think that one is like the closest you get to like the other 3 seasons. I think that's probably just as funny. It's just like another like Tom character piece, like the Usher one,
right? His insecurities with his wife,
right? Yeah, but like otherwise, it's like my thing is like that. That season is like when like I think they thought Uncle Ruckus was funnier than we thought he was. Because he is in every scenario, even when he does not need to be there. The show establishes when he meets Robert, yet apparently in season 4, now they met during civil rights. Now they're on opposing sides of civil rights. It doesn't make sense.
And Lord knows that, like, granted, as a pathological liar, but like I do believe at least he was in the civil rights movement. And I also believe he did fly over the Pacific during World War. The Atlantic. So he fought the Nazis. But the episode I had as a consideration was The Color Ruckus. And
that one's good. Well, that was good.
I guess like I give the show props where. It's like so much of like, okay, like Ruckus is a character who, one of the characters from the Ebony Brown episode is she's like, he's irreprehensible, but he's such a character to such a, stupid degree that it makes you kind of go, people who are that racist are fucking stupid. Let's laugh at them. And it provides, inner, reflection. But to talk about Ruckus, where it's like a lot of his hate comes from his hatred for his father. That was really insightful. I'm like, oh, this is kind of a really... I was not expecting at the end of season 3 to have a character piece like that talks about why he is the way that he is. And I'm like, that's a good episode. And that was another runner-up for me I was considering.
Oh, that would have been fun too. I think you regardless of what you would have went with, everything you said would have led to really great conversation. So,
and back to King of the Hill, to be honest, because Cotton. Well, we've been talking about bad cartoon dads with Clay Puffington. You know, there's Cotton Hill. BoJack's dad was a piece of work. Uncle Ruckus's father is also a piece of work. I think it's cool to see in animation where it is a medium that far too often is, considered childish, where it's like some of the most iconic and some of the most like impactful stories I've ever seen in media come from animation, and just come across as immortal to me, as far as just how like the end of King of the Hill, like just with Bobby and Hank.
Man,
perfect.
I get choked up. I get choked up.
Dude, just you saying the words "the end of King of the Hill" sent chills down my spine.
I've said this on the podcast before, but like they burned off the last 4 episodes of King of the Hill. So they aired the finale 4 weeks early, basically, but 4 weeks sooner than they were going to. And then the last 4 episodes that they hadn't aired yet, they burned off in syndication like the following year. When you watch it on streaming, the real finale is like the 5th to last episode. It's like it's not at the very end, which is very annoying.
Right.
So the first time I watched through the show in its entirety was right after college. I had seen a bunch of it as a kid growing up. I had the first 2 seasons on DVD. I liked the show. Watched through the whole thing after college, and I remember getting to that episode and it ending and being like, "Wait a second." This is the finale. Why are there 4 more episodes? Like, this is the end.
Why is the finale a con episode?
Yes, exactly. And I still get comments that whenever I call To Sirloin with Love the series finale, like, actually, just another manic con day is the finale. I'm like, no, please, I'm begging you, do any research.
Please. Clearly, the creators.
But even beyond research, it's just like critical thinking.
Right.
That last shot is like, this is the end of the cartoon.
It is the end of the cartoon.
The water tower, it's how it started, was with the water tower and into the water. It's poetry.
Gorgeous, by the way. It's so good.
They don't put the theme tune in the score of that show. It's just like, it's put, oh man, what a good finale.
I think I think about, right, because that final shot, we were just talking about that final shot where they go up and you see the tower and everything. It's like a mirror of the very first shot of the cartoon. And they do that again in the one that you talked about, Johnny, that deleted thing, when they were going to end the show earlier. Yeah. Have you seen
this? Have you seen this, Saber? The alternate ending that would have been season 11's finale.
Well, what is it?
So season 11. I'll send you the video that I made. But season 11's finale is the one where Luann and Lucky get married, and they thought the show was going to be done. And so that's why that wedding has all the characters.
I saw the characters. Yes. I was wondering that. I'm like, why is Hank's half brother here?
Yes. And then they have an extra scene that they took out, but is animated, and you can watch, where they like do this whole kind of wrap up thing where they're like, I can't believe all these things happened over the last year. And they like name all of these events of the show. So it like places it in 1 year time period, which is
so cramped.
Doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
But that ends with Hank gets a mosquito bite. He slaps it and then it goes back up just like at the beginning of the show. Yep. They do that again.
Okay, I can live with that timeline if that was the timeline, but having Bobby and Hank saying
it's better
to each other.
It's better.
It's way better because that's the core of the show. Like that relationship is the core of the show. And so I think if this was going to be the last ditch effort finale because they unexpectedly got canceled, then like fine, that works pretty well. But it sounds like they wrote that as the finale, then last second got a renewal. And then we're like, all right, well, let's get rid of the actual finale part.
Yeah, we don't need that. We don't need that shit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that. I'm catching up on all y'all's channels. I have it when I go to the gym, I'll listen to you all a lot, and when I go driving a lot. So that's man. This is good timing. This is good timing for you all inviting me on. Which, by the way, thank you again.
Of course.
But this has been a lot of fun.
This has been great.
Yeah,
We're so glad you
back,
came on.
man.
Yeah, we have to have you back. It was too easy to geek out about all this stuff for us not to harness that energy again. So
I love that.
Yeah. Anything you want to mention or plug before we get out of here?
I mean, if you all want to watch my videos, it's on Saberspark on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter. I stream bad movies with my girlfriend on Twitch. And that's really about it, guys. Again, thank you so much for your contributions to our community. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you all for, again, you all are just like so easy to talk to. So thank you for your wonderful host. And I really appreciate being here.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much for coming on. This was so much fun. Truly.
It was great. It was great to have you.
Yeah.
Let's do it again. Seriously. Let's do it again.
I'm so serious.
We'll have you back. We'll definitely have you back. Cool. All right. I got to do this. I do my wrap up spiel at the end. I say, and with that, I want to thank Carrie Feek for our artwork. I want to thank Jake Neutron for our theme song. I want to thank Michael Yunez for producing and editing the podcast. and co-hosting our Patreon episodes on Cartoons That Curse After Dark. I want to thank Toonrific Tariq for co-hosting every episode with me. Thank you, Tariq. I want to thank Saberspark for joining us with this episode. He will be back. This was a great episode. We got to thank all of you for listening, all of the cursed ones over on Patreon for paying for some bonus episodes. Go and if you're looking for more, check us out over there. We've got like 40 episodes just talking about movies on there. And we love you. We appreciate you. You're all great, but also thank you very much. Goodbye.